Just over a month ago or so, an invitation was sent out to women all over to interview, females outside their own generation, related or inspirational, and ask a simple battery of questions to share their knowledge and insight. Here are some moments from those interviews.
Cook. Looking forward to my grandchild.
I still like to read. A book can just take me away from the world for a while, and so I nearly always have at least one book going, maybe two or three. But I also like people. I like to be with friends, visit with them, go to lunch, get a cup of coffee. I love music. I like to listen to music. I like to attend music events, concerts. I like the theater. I've even learned to like the opera through my husband. So I don't know. It's very, very simple things are really fun for me. And most people would not think this was fun. I research. And so I spend a lot of time in libraries and archives, and that is fun for me. It's like being on a treasure hunt. You never know what you're going to find. So that probably would be my number one fun thing at this point in my life.
And as I grew up, I sort of narrowed the types of things that I did, but as long as I was able to be active, tennis was an important part of my life. So was traveling and walking. And what I do for fun now is spend time with my family, with my friends, try to take opportunities to travel to new places, and engage in the things that are happening around my city.
Do I have fun now? No. I like movies. I like to go to movies. I like to support friends' movies. I like to make movies.
Do you like
I like to go dancing. I like to go out to nice dinner. I really like being at home now. I'm kind of at a stage in my life where I can make better food and have better movies and everything at home. In a weird way. I know that's weird, but I kind of like being at home. I like being outside on a nice day.
Okay.
Traveling.
Traveling.
I like traveling.
I didn't start.
You were a teacher, weren't you?
I taught in Spring Branch School District many years ago, taught 5th and 6th grade, but I did not stay with that. And I really did not discover my passion for history until I turned 40.
Oh.
And through some volunteer work I was doing, I knew nothing about Houston's history when I moved here. And when I discovered it, I thought, oh, this is what I want to spend my time doing. So at that point, I began doing research, and then I had opportunities to write, and I've had some opportunities to teach. But this has been kind of a midlife occurrence with me. So it was not always what I thought I would do.
So your midlife crisis became a desire to research.
Well, it was history.
That's not like everybody's midlife crisis.
Well, it was to learn history. I mean, the history of Houston just became so interesting to me. And my real intent in doing all of this is to educate everybody else about it. I feel like we need to know the past in order to, live in the future and prepare, and live in the present and prepare for the future.
And I must say, while we're talking to you, Betty, just to let people know that are watching this, that you spearheaded the status of getting the River Oaks and the Alabama theater sites and shopping centers designated as city landmarks, which is very important. And then most recently, you have overseen the publication of the new book, Houston Lives On. What's the subtitle? An
adventure in historic preservation.
An adventure in historic preservation.
For elementary age children, yeah.
Which is wonderful.
Yeah. Well, right now I feel like I'm hopefully in an educating mode of how we can instill a love for history and a desire to preserve our history. in everybody, but particularly right now in children.
Yeah, yeah. No,
I work at Rice University where I teach filmmaking and manage all the technical equipment for the film and Rice Cinema.
So how did you get into your line of work? Don't say Indiana Jones.
Well, my real line of work is anthropology because I have my degree in anthropology. But while I was studying anthropology, I started making documentary films, and my research project for my PhD was about filmmakers, and I learned a lot more about making films. And I guess I got kind of lucky because my second language in anthropology was really technology.
Mm-hmm.
So now I have a technology job instead of an anthropology job.
I enjoyed music, but no, not a significant role. What music do you recall enjoying most? The Beatles.
I think music sort of defines us with our own times. We all find ourselves singing along, and I might be giving up my age, but we find ourselves singing along with the tunes that we heard. I love 60s music because that's when I was coming of age. I was in high school, I was in college, I was in graduate school. I love listening to music, and I loved aligning myself with certain songs and people. When my daughter was playing the piano, Pachelbel's Canon in D was a favorite thing for me to hear. And lots of other music just helps us share things with ourselves, with others, and also sets a period in time.
Did music play a significant role?
Totally. I think what immediately comes to mind is a lot of the social scenes I've been a part of have been music oriented. Like when I was a teenager, I was into punk rock, and there's a social scene around that. There's every cultural aspect. There's politics involved and your fashion involved, but it really centers around the music.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the only one. I think music has driven a lot of the social groups I've been involved with, and I've always really loved going out to see live music and dancing.
What music do you recall enjoying the most?
In my entire life,
Yes. Yes.
I really like syncopated music because I really like the upbeat, and I like the kind of music that's like that makes you jump up and down, like ska, for example. And I think one of the funnest experiences, it's the one that comes immediately in mind, is seeing Mono Chao in concert and just jumping.
Cool. Is there a particular memory you associate with a certain song?
Well, I mean, that same one is still in my head, but memories I associate with a certain song. Okay. For a brief period of my life, I went to a lot of Grateful Dead shows.
Oh.
And
Sorry.
one fall, I went along the East Coast to follow them in concert
You
for a
followed
little
the
bit.
Grateful Dead?
And
Oh my God.
on that tour, they started playing this song called Dark Star for the first time in like 25 years. And every time they played it, I vomited. Every time. Every time they play that song, it made me throw up. And everybody was like, oh my gosh, they're playing that famous song. And I'd be like, bleh. There was just something about that song that made me throw up.
Okay.
Spiritual experience, I can't pull out something that was earth-shattering. This sounds probably strange, but I have spiritual moments sometimes when I'm driving along, because I do a lot of thinking in the car. And sometimes, I will have insights, or I don't have to be necessarily sitting in church to do that. I think my earliest memories of really spiritual experiences were probably as a teenager when I went to church camp. And we had the lake, and we sat on the banks of the lake. We had vespers at sunset, and I was able to help plan some of those experiences when I was an older teenager. And I look back on those now as being maybe the first quiet moments I had in maybe being in communion with God. But I can have those without sitting on the side of a lake. And so they sometimes are fleeting, sometimes they're planned, sometimes they're not. But that's pretty much who I am, I guess.
I mean, there's been a lot of times where I've tried on purpose to have spiritual experiences that worked out and were very spiritual, like retreats or meditations or sweat lodges or something like that. But those are a little different because you're trying. And there's been a lot of times when like the vastness of nature is awe-inspiring and makes me feel insignificant, which I think is a spiritual feeling because you feel connected to everything. I've done body work and stuff that's supposed to be spiritual that I think worked out that way. But the one that comes to mind the most, I think, is that I was in my apartment in Minneapolis and I used to have this brass candelabra that had 3 places for candles and it stood really tall, it stood on the ground. It was actually made out of plumbing parts. And I had these candles burning in. My friend was over and we were talking late at night and the candles had burnt all the way out. And when they burnt out, the last one to burnt out, the flame on top of it, instead of just going out, rose up off the candle and just slowly floated all the way up to the ceiling. And we watched it for like minutes, this flame just sort of floating in the air. It was very strange. We thought it was a fairy.
Oh, I'm sure there are lots of things we would have done differently, but I think what really counts, I probably would have gone back to school and finished another graduate degree, but you find yourself in positions where you make choices. And I don't regret any of my choices. Things I would have...
I don't know of many things I would have done differently. I might have learned to do some things that I didn't do. When I was a Girl Scout leader, I was going to learn to play the guitar, and I never quite achieved that. There's some things like that. I don't know of really major decisions, major things that I would have done differently.
Is there anything you have done? Is there anything you would have done differently if you had the chance?
I don't really have a lot of regrets because I feel like all my experiences, the positive and the negative ones, add up to who I am and where I've gotten to in my life, and I like who I am. And I wouldn't trade those experiences, even the ones that are hard, as learning experiences. But that being said, I wish I had a better relationship with my dad and had made more of an effort to do that.
Family is important. Be kind to others. If you can't think, if you're not going to say anything nice, don't say anything at all.
One life lesson I learned was that my mother was wrong about something. When I was growing up, my mother would always say, "Love doesn't last." And I have found that, at least for me, and for Pat, that once you love, you always love. 42 years we've been married, and still very much in love. Now, we sometimes get mad or irritated, but we always have the love.
Oh, that's nice.
And they say that passion is supposed to die. Everyone says that. And romance. But still, when he comes in and I'm not expecting him, I get fluttery butterflies in my stomach. And passion, when the kids are grown up and gone, it's like a honeymoon all over. So I don't know about this passion dying. I think that's a life lesson I've learned too. That's it.
Ooh, that's a hard question. I think one thing I have learned is that we shouldn't always be looking ahead, down the road, and planning. Because I think when we do that, and I know you certainly identify with this, that we are not living each day. We're not enjoying each day. And I think as we grow up, you always want to be older so you can do something, or you always want to have more money so you can do something, and you always think, oh, when I retire, I think that is something I have learned, that we really ought to value each day. Live it to the fullest. Not worry about what might be ahead. That doesn't mean you don't plan and you have to be serious about it. I think that's one thing I've really, really learned. And I have probably also learned that maybe you don't need to be so terribly serious about everything, that there is a lighthearted side to life. And you need to laugh. I did have something up on my bookshelf with laugh on it in all different kinds of print to remind me, you need to laugh. You need to enjoy. You need to enjoy everything around you. And the other thing I've learned is that people are very important to have in your life. Family, friends are so very important.
Well, this thing I was saying, I think a lot about this thing about staying home that I've been saying lately, because for much of my life I really felt driven, like, oh, I have to go to that concert this weekend, or I have to go to that art show, or I have to go to that lecture. And I finally got into a place in my life where I've kind of settled down and I don't have to do those things anymore, even though they're still fun and I still really enjoy them. Like, I also really enjoy home life in a different way than I have in the past. And, you know, that's pretty nice. It's pretty nice when home is like a comfortable sanctuary.